very good evening to you. I trust you've had a fantastic Sunday. In our top stories.
Tonight, a gang goes on the rampage in Kisauni.
Nimekata mdomo huku kwa nyuma kwa sikio, wamekata sikio, kuna cut pia kulipa hapo kwa skala.
And it's a dark night for the victims of their ruthlessness. Also tonight, the details of how Aror and Kimwarer project's course was systematically altered. Plus, they're not slowing down despite the president's call.
Kama wanataka kuleta impeachment ya huyu naibu wa rais, wajipange vizuri.
And also tonight, feeling the heat of the drought and human activities.
The waters are not coming in here.
The threats beneath the waves of the Lake Bogoria and Mara River.
NTV Weekend Edition with Zainab Ismail.
Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondo, and we begin off this bulletin tonight on a sad note, where 5 people are nursing serious injuries after they were attacked by a gang operating in Kisauni, Mombasa County. The victims say the machete-wielding gang of more than 5 descended mercilessly on them, maimed them and looted their property. And TV's Coast Region reporter Kevin Mutai has the details.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, a criminal gang operating in Kisauni, Mombasa County, attacked several people, inflicting serious injuries on them. Shirley Angel Atieno, a student at Technical University of Mombasa, recounts the night of terror that landed her in a hospital bed. She was with her friends when she was attacked. Both her hands were severely injured. She also suffered cuts on her neck.
A gang of 7 boys were to attack, but mostly me ndo nilikuwa attack sana. I ran. I was the first person to run.
Mmoja akakuja kaniambia nitoroke. Nikatoroka kwenda mbele ndo nikapata akiomba usaidizi kama manyama ziko nje.
Dennis Okaya is yet another victim of their night rampage.
Ukiangalia hiyo bolt yenyewe vile ligonga, unaona imeng'oa jino ndani huko na huko chini, unaona imekata mdomo huku kwa nyuma kwa sikio, wamekata sikio, kuna cut pia kulipa hapo kwa skala.
Ameibiwa mpaka salary yote, hakuna kitu. Na vijana ambao wanafanya hivyo si haki hata kwa Mwenyezi Mungu. Si haki kukata mtu tu mapanga ambaye hakukosea.
The same gang also hijacked a matatu, robbed passengers and injured a woman before they disappeared into the night. In Shanzu, they attacked a taxi driver, maimed him and left him for dead. One of the gang leaders was, however, shot and killed by police at Hongera, but 4 of his accomplices escaped. Residents say the suspects are well known, but no one would dare give information to police.
Usalama katika sehemu ya Kisauni imekuwa ni katika hali mbaya sana, na hii incident ina confirm kwamba security measures zinafaa zichukuliwe katika sehemu ile.
This is just the latest episode in a series of incidents at the coast, and which authorities have promised to address. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
While investigations into the Aror and Kimwarer Dam scandal have revealed how over 6 billion shillings could have been systematically stolen through a 10% increment to ostensibly cater for unforeseen emergencies. NTV has further obtained bank transactions amounting to close to 90 million shillings paid to the contractor by the government. Although we are still trying to establish the purpose of the payments, NTV's Seth Olale with the details on the dam's scam.
According to documents seen by NTV, the cost of Aror and Kimwarer dams under investigations was increased by 10%. This was to cater for unforeseen emergencies. The contract agreement signed by KVDA Managing Director David Kimosop and the then head of Southern Africa operations at CMC de Ravenna, Paolo Poselli, shows that in the initial agreement for the construction of the 2 multi-purpose dams, the issue of contingency had not been factored in. After negotiations with the financer, the National Treasury and KVDA, it was decided that a 10% contingency be factored in. This contingency was to be utilized for the unforeseen cost overruns upon authorization of the employer. This means that the total cost for the construction of Aror Dam increases to 28 billion shillings, up from the budgeted 25.4 billion shillings. The cost of Kimwarer rose from 20.5 billion shillings to 23 billion shillings, bringing the total cost for the dams up by 6 billion shillings. In addition, 2 bank transactions have revealed how the government on 26 July 2017 and through the Paymaster General Head of Accounting Unit remitted 20.3 billion shillings to the contractor's account at Intesa San Paulo Bank, London branch, for the construction of Aror Dam. A further 65.5 million shillings was remitted by the Head of Accounting Unit, although NTV is yet to establish the purpose of the 2 payments. The Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, maintains that he is investigating a 21 billion shillings dam scandal. Over 3 cabinet secretaries have already recorded statements at the headquarters of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations along Kiambu Road. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
And away from that, Deputy President William Ruto has warned opposition leaders against trying to destabilize the Jubilee Party. In a thinly disguised onslaught on the opposition, the DP says Jubilee and its leadership will try to change the mindset of the new partners from that of disunity and disruption to one of development and unity. His remarks came as the lieutenants warned the opposition against plans to bring an impeachment motion against the Deputy President.
The culmination of what has been a hectic weekend for the Deputy President, residents of Karuri in Kiambu County demanding audience with the man they say they are backing to succeed President Uhuru. The DP's departure temporarily halted to make time for the masses, and he was staying on message.
Hawa wengine wote ni matapeli, wakora, ama namna gani? Unajua saa hizi kuna watu wengi wanasema Uhuru Kenyatta ni mtu mzuri. Si ni kweli? Lakini hapo nyuma walikuwa wanasema Uhuru Kenyatta afungwe hii.
The DP's stand coming in the wake of increased acrimony between politicians allied to him and those who are supportive of the handshake that brought the opposition into the government fold. Ruto has maintained that he is supportive of the Building Bridges initiative, but with reservations.
Wakuje pole pole. Tuwaweke darasani. Tuwafundishe kwanza waende Sunday school. Wakuje pole pole.
Sentiments that found fertile ground here today.
Handshake ikichukua mrengo wa kugawa taifa imekufa.
The leaders, especially those from this county, categorically stating their preference in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Hatuwezi kuonekana sisi watu wa Mount Kenya region tukiwa conmen and conwomen. Atutume mundanganya haki ya Mungu. Mungu atatuona. Mungu atatulani.
Watu wasituambie wanataka kujenga madaraja na huku nyuma wako na mipango ya kubomoa na kuchoma madaraja mengine na mambo ya kujipanga na kupanga venye watakupangia impeachment.
If we will embrace the handshake, we will also want to say the impeachment motion.
Hawa wengine wote ni watu wamezoea makelele na fitina na fujo. Tunajaribu kuwasomesha mambo ya kuungana na mambo ya maendeleo. Itachukua muda. Unajua mtu akishazoea fujo na maandamano na kisirani na kugawanya watu na ukabila, haiwezi kuondoka siku moja.
The Deputy President maintains that the politics notwithstanding, he will remain focused on pushing for the implementation of the government's Big Four agenda. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
The section of political leaders drawn from various parties have vowed to keep up the pressure against Deputy President William Ruto. They have also asked President Uhuru Kenyatta to sack sitting cabinet secretaries implicated in various scandals. They spoke in separate functions across the country.
Tafadhalini hiyo mswada ya kusema ati CID sipigane na corruption, sijui DPP sipigane na corruption. Sasa mnataka kufungia corruption kwa sanduku ili kila kitu hiyo inafanywa kwa sanduku moja. Hiyo mkatae, mimi nawaomba.
Mimi kama wakili nimeofa bila kulipwa. Nitaprosecute hawa jamaa kutoka chief priest ya corruption mpaka disciples yake yote ya ufisadi.
Kama salamu za Uhuru na Raila itakuhujumu wewe na uwizi wako na isaidia Wakenya kukaa pamoja na biashara na uchumi hinawiri, then sisi tutasema haleluya.
Pambana na ufisadi hewani, pambana nayo hapa katika ardhi, pambana nayo chini ya maji, kila mahali wapambane na nini? Ufisadi. Ndio kahawa ipate bei mzuri.
Now, Western Kenya leaders led by ANC's Musalia Mudavadi have criticized the recent move by President Uhuru Kenyatta allowing importation of sugar from Uganda. Mudavadi claims the decision could completely kill the sugar industry in the region. Zacchaeus Mosame reports from Kakamega.
A number of Western Kenya political leaders met at Shiveye Primary School in Ikolomani constituency during the burial of an Idaho elder, Mzee Ila Mulumaji. The leaders took issue with the recent argument between the head of state and his Ugandan counterpart over the importation of sugar. They argued that the move could worsen the current state of sugar farming in the region.
Mbolea itoke huko ngambo, iende ipite hii paka Uganda, ipande miwa huko, alafu wale watutumie sukari hapa. It's not possible.
You are the one who should tell us why the Jubilee government has increased the quota of sugar from Uganda to Kenya.
And we can empower governors. Governors can do that job to organize a parastatal from South Nyanza to Bungoma to Busia to take care of Ken, to get experts from Mauritius to assist us to revive sugar industry.
The leaders also demanded for a more resolute fight against corruption. Mudavadi noted how graft could easily bring the economy to its knees.
Kwa sababu sasa dams na dikes za Budalangi, World Bank wanasema tunataka tuangalie, we cannot continue under this program.
Hizi pesa nyingi ameleta kwa kanisa, pahali kule zilizotoka Mwenyezi Mungu. Wewe ndio unajua, nasaidia yeye azidi kuleta hizo pesa katika kanisa.
Western leaders say that the importation of sugar from Uganda will be a major blow to the revival of ailing sugar factories in the region. They now want President Uhuru Kenyatta to rethink about the stand. Zacchaeus Mosame, NTV, Kakamega.
Now, the storm that has rocked the Law Society of Kenya as far as its representation to the Judicial Service Commission is concerned is far from over. While the man at the center of the storm, Tom Ojienda, expressed optimism that the LSK annual general meeting on Saturday would calm the waters, it only served to widen the rift. Olive Barrows reports on the intrigues.
I am a non-controversial person, I can tell you. And I can also tell you that we've spoken to our friends and to the membership, and the Law Society will emerge stronger from this annual general meeting.
It may have been a case of wishful thinking, as the society remains divided on what the resolution to remove the requirement for tax compliance and the Higher Education Loans Board clearance certificate from the eligibility criteria for LSK elections means for Tom Ojienda.
We put it to vote.
The society's president, Allen Gishuhi, telling NTV that it cannot apply retrospectively to the court proceedings in Ojienda's case. Gishuhi, who has objected to Ojienda's clearance by the LSK Council to contest for the position of male representative to the Judicial Service Commission for want of a tax compliance certificate, is convinced the resolution should have no bearing on the Ojienda case.
For those members who did not want to admit this motion on account of admissibility due to the pending court case, please stand up.
And he is not alone.
I also agree
with the president of the LSK, Mr. Allen Gashuhi, to the effect that whatever the resolution that was passed yesterday the resolution that was passed yesterday does not act retrospectively.
And it is on that expectation of the court proceeding that the society is now divided.
This therefore means that the matters that are in court will have to fall by the wayside, because the membership has determined by a majority that those requirements that had been placed on the way of a major candidate can no longer hold.
When trying to now say that it cannot be used to approve Professor Tobo agenda, it's only trying to put it in a position to feel like this was an agenda motion, it targeted Professor Agenda, and it can only be done for Professor Agenda.
Beyond the JSC elections, the resolutions not to require a tax compliance and help clearance certificate from members seeking elective positions either within or outside the society in a representative capacity has the society divided on what it says of the profession's view of the leadership and integrity provisions of the Constitution.
What do you call integrity? I mean, you see, we are having a different interpretation of this animal called integrity. That motion, the passage of that motion did now not say that we are going to pick anybody to be able to represent advocates in any particular arena.
For LSK, which is supposed to advise the state and the public on the compliance of the law or on constitutionalism, it's a bit a step in the wrong direction.
The role of the profession in enabling the theft of public funds having already come into focus.
If a man or a woman, for that matter, is being investigated for a particular case, why should you deny the investigative arms the ability to be able to see who the beneficial owner is? I today call again on the lawyers' body and also on Parliament, do the right thing. We know that lawyers are being used to hide illicit funds.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
All right, listen to this next story. Now, the Pontiff is in Morocco for 2 days with a visit aimed at boosting Christian-Muslim ties. In the streets, huge crowds had lined up to see the King and the Pope together. Now, take a look at this. This is the moment a man charges towards the King and the Pope's motorcade. Security agents tackled the man, who appeared to hold an envelope as he belted towards the train of cars driving through the streets of Rabat. It is unclear what happened to him after he was tackled. However, King Mohammed and the Pope did not appear to have noticed the attempted intrusion. Oh wow, what a tackle. Well, let's take a quick break here on NTV Weekend Edition. We still have a lot lined up for you. Stay tuned. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, this Thursday, the President will address the nation and deliver the annual State of the Nation address to Parliament. Last time, and following a drawn-out 2017 election campaign, President Kenyatta leaned hard on the unity subject, asking the nation to summon the harmony it needed to fix itself and repair the bonds broken by the bruising political contest. With the newfound allies but facing more ugly spots over the war on graft, the President this year has a lot of ground to cover. But what are the top issues the country expects him to cover, and how do his claims in the previous addresses hold up to closer scrutiny? Well, Africa Check's Alphonse Shiundu joins us to help us look out for the truths, the half-truths and the lies ahead of Thursday. Here's a state of the facts. But first, what top 5 issues do you think the President has to address in his speech on Thursday?
Thank you very much, Zainab. So the top 5 issues are the issues, the bread and butter issues. So we will be thinking about the economy, we'll be thinking about jobs, we'll be thinking about debt, we'll be thinking about food security, which is a big issue. And then we would want an update on the Big 4 agenda. So where are we with his plan about the housing scheme? Where are we with his pledge to increase the manufacturing in the country? Where are we with universal health care? And where are we with whatever, anything else he has on his agenda? So those would be my top 5.
All right.
Yes.
Definitely. So throughout the years and through the State of the Nation address that the President has used the platform to address the nation, there are a number of issues that have come out. We'll start with the economy, and we're going to fact check that. The President noted in his previous State of the Nation address that the country's real gross domestic product grew by 4.9% in 2017. Is that true?
Yes, we checked that and we found that to be true. So we checked that against the data that we get from the Economic Survey and the updates that we get from the Parliamentary Budget Office. So that data tallies with what the President said. So we take that to be an accurate reflection of the public record. And so we rate it as correct.
Okay.
Yes.
On job creation, the Jubilee government promised to create 1.3 million jobs every year and work with county governments to establish at least one industry in every county. Has that been achieved?
So we found that that is a pledge they are making going forward. But in their first term, they promised 500,000 jobs, which would translate a year, so that would translate to 2.5 million jobs a year. 2.5 million jobs at the end of the first term. So when we checked that, the numbers would show that, because if you add up the numbers on the Economic Survey, the numbers show that actually they met the job target. But the question becomes, what are these jobs? What's the quality of those jobs?
The government also pledged to work with the private sector to enhance food and agricultural production on at least the 1.2 million acres. Where are we at this point?
Well, the last time we checked that claim, we found that the National Irrigation Board had figures. And those figures showed that all the land in Kenya under irrigation was 470,000 acres. So when the President, and that was after Galana Kuladu, we were doing these numbers a year ago, and just before the State of the Nation. So we found it's 470,000. So for us to get at 1.2, we need to add like 700,000. Then you have all these questions that we are having about the dams in Aror, Kimwarer, Itare, all the questions about the dams. So it's for now, it's not a million. We can confidently say we are not at 1.3, we are not at 1 million. The best we could be doing could be in the region of 500 to 700,000, but that is if we take it that the government has been doing. But the number that I can go with confidently, that you can verify and I can verify, it's 470,000 acres.
Let's talk about devolution. And the President said that from an allocation of that is 210 billion In the financial year 2013-2014, the county's budget now stands at 372 billion for the financial year 2018-2019, which is an increase of 56% in 5 years. Is that true?
We found that to be mostly correct, because when you look at the numbers, so we checked the Division of Revenue Act, which is the one that allocates money between the two levels of government, and we also checked with the reports of the Control of Budget, which show how much money was allocated to the counties. So, and we also checked the Appropriations Act and the County Allocation of Revenue Act. So all those show us that it's true in 2013-2014 that the figure increased. That's the first full year under devolution. The figures increased from 210 billion, which was 31% of the then most recently approved revenues, and it came to 372 billion. In 2018-2019, which works out to 39.8 of the most recent approved audited revenues for the country.
All right.
Yes.
Now remember also the president is very keen to implement the government's Big Four agenda, which is meant to solidify his legacy. And on the same is health. Now the president said free maternity services and the continued enrollment of more Kenyans into the government-sponsored NHIF program are some of the key achievements in the attainment of the universal healthcare, which is quite a very big program by the government. Now, these are the figures. Maternal mortality, he says, fell from 488 deaths per 100,000 lives to 362 deaths per 100,000 lives. Now, this is according to his previous State of the Nation address. Do those figures match?
Yes, when we check with the figures from the Ministry of Health, and we look at the data that has been collected by other international bodies that are interested in healthcare in the country, the figure of maternal health seems to tally. So for us, we looked at that and we rated it as mostly correct.
Right.
But it would be better for us to have an accurate record. The Kenya Demographic Health Survey, that's we could demsema kweli at that point. So that is something that would allow us to verify. I don't know when the last one that we have is from 2014, but when the next one comes out, that's the one that we can now rely on and audit the government very well.
Now the Jubilee government promised to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of roads across the country. The president said the government is on target, that was last year, having completed about 3,000 kilometers by 2018, with a further 5,000 kilometers under construction. But before you answer me, let's listen in to the president.
We promised to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of road of the country. We are on target, having completed 3,000 kilometers to date, and with a further 5,000 kilometers under construction. Among the many roads we have completed, I just want to mention one, and that is the Isiolo-Moyale Road, part of the Trans-African Highway Corridor, running to our border with Ethiopia.
There is no publicly verifiable record to show us that, yes, this is what was promised, this is what was built, and this is the road.
So let's talk about electricity, and this touches on the last mile connectivity project, which was rolled out, remember, in 2015, which the president said would seek to increase electricity access, especially in rural and peri-urban areas. So he says by 2018, electricity has already been expanded to 71% of households. Is that true?
That's unlikely, that's incorrect, because for electricity, we depend on figures from the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, because effectively it's a monopoly for electricity reticulation in the country, and they would know how many customers they have. So the president is right. They had 2.3 million customers when he took power, and that worked out to 27% of the population. But for that to be 71%, he would need to have connected what? No, I'll do the math later. But I'll do the math later. But what we know is he has connected about 6.18 million people. By the last time we read the Kenya Power and lighting company report.
Right. So, Shundu, lastly but not least, is on a very touchy subject, which is corruption. And last year, the president said ill-gotten public assets valued at about 500 million shillings were recovered, and civil proceedings were already instituted for the preservation and recovery of other assets valued at more than 6 billion shillings. When it comes to corruption, do you have the numbers? Do you have the facts to check this?
With corruption, it's the nature of corruption. The way it is, it's a crime. It's secret. It's not something that gets onto the public record. And with corruption, when they say that say 500 million was recovered, that we can check with the EACC, but only EACC would have those numbers. Corruption is problematic, and we do not have data. We would have been happier if the Asset Recovery Agency would put its data, make its data public, and put out reports on what these assets that have been recovered are, how much they are worth.
It'd be very difficult, again, to fact check that.
To fact check that, yes.
Right.
So when he mentions numbers about corruption, the best we can do is wait for EACC to give us numbers.
All right.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Alphonse Shundu. Well, that's where we end our interview at this point. We're going to take a very short break. We'll be back with much more. Stay with us. You're watching NTV Weekend Edition. Now, human activities, drought and encroachment along critical water catchment areas are draining some of the country's crucial water sources. Lake Bogoria, for instance, famous for its hot springs and flamingos, is on its deathbed due to destructive human activities and climate change. NTV's Anita Nkonge has more on the threats beneath the waves.
The dry, dust-crusted bed of the Lake Bogoria unfurls into the distance, the wind cloaking the apocalyptic scene in silence. If water is life, then this is the absence of both. A wonderland known for its hot springs and the flamingos is vanishing into Baringo's thin air. The lake depends on two major rivers, Weseges and Loboe, which too have been reduced to a trickle. Though the drought is in part to blame for the shrinking lake, human activities upstream, the two main rivers that drain into it, have contributed to put the lake at risk.
We have a number of rivers feeding this lake, but because of irrigation and also other human activities up there in Sulai and also those parts of Kisanana up there, the waters are not coming in here.
Some flamingos have died and others have flown off in search of better places to perch. The lake's vanishing act, a disastrous manifestation of the harsh effects of human activities and climate change. Stakeholders are now appealing for intervention that will save this lake from sure extinction.
We are requesting that the KWS, IUCN and other interested parties to come in so that we may partner together.
And we are appealing for the county, maybe the legislation, so that they have a good working relationship between the four counties, through the Department of or the Ministry of Water, so that we have a good working relationship with the other counties.
Across the country, the fingerprints of climate change and destructive human activities are everywhere. At the Masai Mara National Reserve, the air around is lip-chapping dry. The dry vegetation greets you on arrival. The Mara River, the stage for what's known as the 8th wonder of the world, the annual wild beast migration, is dying out. A spot check around several crossing points show a river on a sure deathbed. Human activities upstream, in the Mau forest, the river's source, have contributed to the Great Mara River's decline. This could in turn have an impact on its annual stampede.
Mara River yenye tunaijua Mara River ya zamani sasa imekuwa Mara River kufa.
The drying river has had a catastrophic impact on the wildlife that depend on it. Some wildlife has reportedly died, and the survival options for other species in the ecosystem appear ever so grim under the scorching heat. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Now, the Frontier Counties Development Council, FCDC, is mulling over converting the economic bloc into a political party. Political leaders from the region say their 7 million base support ought to count for something and should not be ignored in the run-up to the 2022 elections. Our political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi was in Wajir for this report.
For the last 2 years, Wajir County business has played out in the courtroom after the disputed 2017 elections. Governor Mohamed Mahamoud, whose election was upheld, is now extending an olive branch to his competitors.
Ningependa kuwasihi Ahmed Muhammad na Ahmed Jir, Ahmed Abdullahi na wafuasi yao wote wakuje watusaidie kujenga Wajir County.
Naomba ndugu yangu Ahmed Abdullahi, former governor, tafadhali tukue watu moja. Naomba dada yangu Fatuma Ali Gedi, tafadhali kuja tuwe pamoja.
At the peace meeting organized at the Orahe grounds, which are symbolic to the community and region, there was a call from the leaders to transform the economic bloc recently created into a political party and use it as a bargaining tool for the 2022 elections.
Lazima tushikane kutoka Lamu hadi Turkana, kutoka Garissa hadi Marsabit. Lazima tushikane tukiwa kama wafugaji.
Tukipigania kama watu wajia pekee, hakuna mahali watu wataenda. Kama Marsabit pekee, hakuna mahali tutaenda, ama Turkana ama sehemu zingine. Lakini tukiungana pamoja na tukiungana kwa ukweli, lazima watasikiza sisi.
Kuelekea mbele,
Mambo yote ambayo tutafanya, ule mtu hata anataka kura yetu, ni lazima tumuulize sisi wafugaji, what is there for us?
But Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Aden Duale, seems to disagree, arguing that the region was better placed with Ruto in the driver's seat.
We don't want to take our people to small corners. Jubilee is like a supermarket. It's like a Nakumat or the big supermarkets. So we don't want to take our people to small kiosks.
My brother Duale, if you want to take us somewhere, you need to do it so that we are all agreeable, and because that place you are taking the community to will serve the interest of that community.
The northern frontier counties are made up of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, Marsabit, West Pokot, Turkana, Tana River, Lamu and Samburu. The political leaders also claim that the region faces discrimination, with the latest example being the fresh registration of people through NIMS, which they called for a boycott. The leaders argue they have been neglected in the issuance of vital national documents like their identity card.
NIMS ni program ambayo hatujui mahali imeanza, hatujui mahali inaelekea, lakini tuna imani ya kwamba imenuiwa kuathiri wafugaji vibaya. It is illegal for any program of such magnitude to be done in a country without the requirement of the law, which is massive civic education to be done.
Sasa tutarejesta NIMS namna gani? Na hata ile cheti ambazo tuko nazo bado inatusumbua.
I don't understand why people in the northern region are marginalized in regards to issuance of birth certificate, national ID, and as well as passport. They are born here, they are not second-class citizens, they have all the right to acquire those documents like any other Kenyan.
Political leaders from this region have also insisted that they will be supporting a referendum that only seeks to increase the amount of money that is sent to counties to 60%, as it will spark growth not only in Wajir County, but in all the 10 counties that make up pastoralist communities. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV in Wajir County.
And in other news making headlines internationally, it is 25 years since the Rwanda genocide that claimed over 1 million lives took place between April and July 1994. Now, residents from some of the villages that were deeply affected by the massacre continue to rebuild their lives.
For years, this water point brought together the villagers of Ruseke and Giheta in Rwanda until 1994, when it all changed. Those on one side of the valley in the village of Giheta turned on their neighbors across the way in the village of Ruseke. Gangs of machete-wielding men hacked their neighbors to death following the outbreak of inter-ethnic violence, a genocide in which over 800,000 mainly Tutsi people were killed between April to July 1994, according to the UN. It lasted 100 days.
It was a big surprise for us because these were people we used to socialize and drink with, people that were helping each other, inviting each other to weddings without any issue. It was so surprising.
After the genocide, people from the two villages took turns to fetch water to avoid crossing paths. It wasn't until 2005 that the first rapprochements between the two communities began.
Asking for forgiveness was not easy at all. The first time we crossed to ask for forgiveness, there were around 100 of us. People among us were scared.
For someone to admit to the crimes he committed only to the authorities without returning to ask for forgiveness from his victims, do you think that is enough? It's far from enough.
25 years after the genocide, the pain lingers, but the younger generations hope to move forward. Children from the two villages were the first to gather together at the water point, and the spring has once more become a source of shared life.
We'll be taking a very quick break, but we still have more news on the international front as well as some sporting action. Let's take a break. Welcome back. In Ukraine, a comedian whose political experience is limited to playing the president on television is likely to top the first round as Ukrainians voted for a leader amid frustrations over living standards and corruption. The 41-year-old star, Volodymyr Zelensky of the political comedy, has returned to his third season this week. He has more than 25% support in final surveys ahead of his two nearest rivals. In polling stations across Ukraine, voters expressed dissatisfaction with the candidates. The main question now is whether incumbent Petro Poroshenko or ex-Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko will meet Zelensky in a runoff next month. Well, that was quite a mouthful there. Well, we'll take a very short break here. But when we come back, Ida Waringa will be bringing you all the sporting action.
Let's get into the world of sport. I'm Ida Waringa, and it was a good day for Kenyans in Poland as Gilbert Masai and Gladys Kipkoech won the men and women's Warsaw Half Marathon respectively, securing a Kenyan double at the IAAF Silver Label Road Race. Masai won in 1 hour, 1 minute and 43 seconds, leading a Kenyan sweep with Peter Kirui taking second and Silas Kiptoo completing the podium. Kipkoech won the women's race in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 19 seconds, just 6 seconds shy of the personal best she set on her debut last year. Tabitha Wamboi was second, while Ethiopian Abebech Mulugeta prevented another Kenyan podium sweep, finishing third. Congratulations to them. Now, Western Stima rallied from behind to beat National Super League side Wazito FC 2-1 in their round of 16 game at the Moi Stadium in Kisumu to storm into the Sport Pesa Shield quarterfinals. Derek Onyango placed the side ahead on the 16th minute before goalkeeper Samuel Odhiambo equalized for the hosts in the 50th from the Sport. Kennedy Otieno scored the league side winning goal in the 66th minute. In the day's other game, Kenyan Premier League side AFC Leopards were bundled out by Mino's Bungoma Superstars after losing 4-3 on post-match penalties at Buhungu. Bungoma and Western Stima now join KCB, Bidco, SS Assad and Congo Boys as the teams that have made it to the last 8 of the competition after the weekend round. 2 rounds of 16 matches are left, however, with Kariobangi Sharks yet to play Muranga Seal and a heavyweight showdown between Bandari FC and Gor Mahia in the offing. Let's cross borders now, and Liverpool clinched a 2-1 victory over Tottenham Hotspur thanks to a last-gasp Toby Alderweireld own goal to go back to the top of the Premier League. Robert Firmino opened the scoring for the Reds in the 16th minute before Lucas Moura. United Arsenal play tomorrow. Let's move on. Kenya Prisons coach David Lungaho has tipped his side to progress from a seemingly tough Pool C at the Men's Africa Club Volleyball Championship that serves off on Monday in Cairo, Egypt. Prisons have been drawn against Libya's El Sweli, Burundi's Rukinzo, Wolaita of Ethiopia, Espoir from Democratic Republic of Congo, and Cameroon's Army Club FAP. Prisons are seeking to better their 2011 performance after finishing second to win silver and a 4th place finish in 2013. Kenya's other representatives, GSU, who are the National League champions, are in Pool D alongside University of Zimbabwe, Guinea's ASFAG, Mwangaza from Ivory Coast, and Uganda's Nemo Stars. Now, GSU have competed in 2 friendlies against local teams in Egypt, beating Suez Canal in straight sets before losing to Zamalek with a similar scoreline. Hosts and 13-time champions Al Ali are the current defending champions.
Challenge that we have this opportunity and platform to advance. So what we are going to do is that we are going to take one match at a time, and we want to promise Kenyans that we are going to do our best to see that we advance to the next stage. We also pray for our brothers from GSU also to advance. They have also a very good pool, but relatively easy. But all in all, Kenyans, we're here to represent the country, and what we're looking forward to is making the podium finish. But first of all, we have to get out of the group, which is very tough.
Some local hockey now, and Dennis Burudi scored the lone goal in Wazalendo Youth's 1-0 win over Sikh Union in match day 2 of the Men's Hockey Premier League played at the City Park grounds. Now, in other results of the day, USIU women beat Sliders 2-0 in the Women's Premier League. Maua Williams and Susan Okech scoring the students' goals. Kisumu Youngsters beat Mvita 1-0, while Park Road Badgers saw off Mombasa Sports Club 2-1 in the Men's Super League. Karate Azium beat Mount Kenya University 2-1 in the only men's National League match of the day. And defending world champion Lewis Hamilton took advantage of Ferrari new boy Charles Leclerc's wretched misfortune when he claimed a dramatic victory for Mercedes in the Bahrain Grand Prix. The five-time champion gained the lead with 10 laps remaining when Formula One's new star, who claimed a record-breaking pole position for Ferrari on Saturday, was hit by engine problems. While as he slowed down, Hamilton hunted him down to claim his first win of the season, his third in Bahrain, and the 74th of his career, ahead of his Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas, who won the season-opening Australian Grand Prix. Leclerc came home third as the race finished behind a safety car ahead of Max Verstappen of Red Bull. Four-time champion Sebastian Vettel, however, finished fifth in the second Ferrari after a late spin had damaged his front wing. Bottas stayed on top in the Drivers' Championship, 1 point ahead of Hamilton.
Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Well done to Mercedes-AMG Patronus on their 1-2. And they're represented by... Well done, gentlemen, and now the celebration!
Lewis Hamilton there continuing things this season where he left them off last season. That wraps it up on sports. We play again tomorrow. I'm Ida Waringa. Enjoy your evening.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ida. Well, as we even speak about sports, I've never had Ida talk about karate. It's a very interesting sport. And I know of this expert, a karate expert, and he loves a specific kind of tea. It's called karate. Hope that's funny. Well, my name is Zainab. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us. Have a lovely evening.